You've tried it all. The 5 a.m. wake-up calls, the cold showers, the perfectly balanced meals. You've followed every productivity guru's morning routine to the letter, and yet somehow, 3 weeks in, you're back to hitting snooze and grabbing whatever's easiest for breakfast. Here's the truth nobody wants to tell you. The problem isn't your willpower, and it isn't your discipline. The problem is that you're building someone else's routine instead of designing one that actually works for your brain, your body, and your real life. Today, I'm going to show you the 5 critical mistakes that are sabotaging your daily routine before it even begins. And more importantly, I'm going to walk you through a completely different approach to building habits that actually stick. This isn't about waking up earlier or working harder. This is about working smarter with your own biology, psychology, and circumstances. By the end of this video, you'll understand why conventional routine advice keeps failing you and exactly how to build a personalized system that transforms your days without the constant battle against yourself. Let me start by acknowledging something important. The internet is overflowing with perfect daily routines. Wake at dawn, meditate for 20 minutes, journal your gratitude, work out before breakfast, eat only the most optimized meals, work in perfect focus blocks, and fall asleep by 9. It all sounds incredible on paper, doesn't it? The problem is that most people who try to implement these routines feel like failures within days or weeks. They blame themselves for lacking discipline, when the real issue is that these cookie-cutter approaches ignore fundamental truths about how human behavior actually works. I spent years researching behavioral psychology, circadian biology, and habit formation, and what I discovered changed everything about how I approach daily routines. The most successful people aren't the ones who force themselves into rigid schedules. They're the ones who understand their own patterns, design systems that work with their natural tendencies rather than against them, and build flexibility into their structure. Today, I'm going to break down exactly why traditional routine advice fails and give you a framework for building something that actually works for you, not against you. The first critical mistake people make is assuming that waking up early is inherently superior. We've all heard the success stories about CEOs who wake at 4:30 or 5 in the morning. We're told that early risers are more productive, more successful, and more disciplined. But here's what those stories don't mention. Chronotypes. Your chronotype is your body's natural preference for sleep and wake times, and it's largely determined by genetics. Some people are genuinely wired to be early birds, while others are natural night owls. We're in between. When you fight against your chronotype, you're not building discipline. You're creating unnecessary stress and working against your body's natural rhythms. Research shows that night owls who force themselves into early morning routines experience chronic sleep deprivation, decreased cognitive function, and higher stress levels. They're literally fighting their biology every single day. Meanwhile, they're told that their struggle means they lack willpower, which couldn't be further from the truth. The solution isn't to give up on structure. It's to build your routine around your natural energy patterns. If you're a night owl, trying to do your most important work at 5 in the morning is setting yourself up for failure. Instead, you need to identify when your brain is naturally most alert and schedule your deep work for those hours. For morning people, this might be early. For evening people, this might be late afternoon or evening. The key is honest self-assessment. Look at times in your life when you had complete freedom over your schedule. When did you naturally fall asleep and wake up? When did you feel most energetic and focused? These patterns reveal your true chronotype, and building a routine that honors this will eliminate the constant struggle of forcing yourself to be someone you're not. The second mistake is attempting to overhaul your entire life overnight. You've seen the perfect routine, and you decide that starting tomorrow, everything will change. You'll wake up 2 hours earlier, meditate for 30 minutes, exercise for an hour, eat perfectly planned meals, work in focused blocks, read for an hour before bed, and completely transform who you are as a person. By day 3, you've abandoned most of it. By day 7, you're back to your old patterns. And then you conclude that you're just not cut out for self-improvement. This isn't a personal failing. This is a predictable outcome of ignoring how habit formation actually works. Your brain is designed to be efficient, and efficiency means running on autopilot as much as possible. Every behavior you currently have is a well-worn neural pathway. When you try to change everything at once, you're asking your brain to simultaneously create dozens of new pathways while abandoning dozens of old ones. The cognitive load is overwhelming, and your brain will default back to what's familiar because it requires less energy. The research on habit formation is clear. Sustainable change happens through small, incremental adjustments, not massive overhauls. When you start with one tiny change and practice it until it becomes automatic, you're building a foundation. Once that foundation is solid, you can add another small change on top of it. This might feel slower than the dramatic transformation you're hoping for, but it's exponentially more effective because these changes actually stick. Let me give you a practical example. Instead of committing to wake up at 5 a.m., meditate for 20 minutes, and then exercise for an hour, start with waking up just 15 minutes earlier than you currently do. Do only that for 2 weeks. Don't add anything else. Just shift your wake time by 15 minutes and notice what happens. Once that feels natural and automatic, then you can add one more small behavior, like drinking water immediately upon waking. Build slowly, build solidly, and you'll create lasting change instead of temporary enthusiasm followed by inevitable collapse. The third critical mistake is treating routine advice as universal truth rather than starting points for experimentation. When someone successful shares their routine, they're sharing what works for their life, their goals, their responsibilities, their energy levels, and their preferences. But somehow, we take that information and assume it should work exactly the same way for us, despite having completely different circumstances. Consider the classic advice to exercise first thing in the morning. For some people, this is genuinely transformative. They feel energized, they've accomplished something meaningful before the day even starts, and they carry that momentum forward. But for others, morning exercise is miserable. They feel sluggish, their performance is poor, and it drains rather than energizes them. These people might thrive with evening exercise, using it as a way to decompress from the day and prepare for restful sleep. Neither approach is inherently better. They're simply different, and effectiveness depends entirely on the individual. The same principle applies to every element of a routine. Meditation works brilliantly for some people and feels impossibly frustrating for others, who might benefit more from walking in nature or listening to music. High-protein breakfasts sustain some people for hours, while leaving others feeling heavy and unfocused. Cold showers invigorate certain individuals and simply make others miserable without any tangible benefit. The point isn't that these practices are bad. The point is that blindly copying them without testing and adjusting for your own experience is a recipe for failure. Here's how to approach this differently. When you encounter routine advice, treat it as a hypothesis to test rather than a rule to follow. Try it for a set period, maybe 2 weeks, and pay attention to how you actually feel and perform. Not how you think you should feel, but how you genuinely experience it. Keep what serves you and discard what doesn't, regardless of how many successful people swear by it. Your routine should be a custom-built system designed for your life, not a one-size-fits-all prescription handed down from someone else's experience. The fourth mistake people make is underestimating the importance of transitions between activities. Most routine advice focuses on the activities themselves. Wake up, meditate, exercise, work, eat, sleep. But what gets overlooked are the spaces in between, and those spaces often determine whether your routine feels sustainable or exhausting. Think about your current typical day. You finish a work task and immediately jump to the next one. You come home from work and instantly start preparing dinner or tackling household responsibilities. You finish dinner and go straight to evening activities. Your brain is constantly shifting gears without any buffer, and this creates a kind of mental whiplash that accumulates throughout the day. By evening, you're not just tired from your activities. You're exhausted from the constant context switching without recovery time.